What is up, everybody? This is Allen Stiles doing a little bit of extra work here. Off nights with Allen Stiles. We are rocking and rolling right now as some of these results pop in. So basically, just with the playoffs and everything that has been happening with the playoff run. Kind of decided to work with this with our new program director. And I talked to Chris about it, Chris Watkins, of course, and decided to kind of rock this out for the duration of the season. So we have no clue how long it's going to go. But thank you for joining. Really, how we just want to break this down is just like the show in a lot of ways. Anybody that has any questions, go ahead and throw them in the comments and I will answer the questions. Anybody that has any comments, concerns with the Kings, we will get to all of them. Normally going to go about an hour. So the way I've kind of thought to break this down is to do these when the Kings aren't playing, obviously off nights. But if they're off for 2 days in a row, typically I'm going to do it the night before the game. Not always, but typically going to try to do it the night before the game. So, for example, I think they play Tuesday, Wednesday. The next time I would do this is on Friday. So, you never know. You know how Fridays can be. But definitely I will shout this out anytime we're doing it. And like I said, hop in with the comments and I will answer as many as I can. Yeah, I just want to start off with what happened with Keegan Murray and the Keegan Murray, Dylan Brooks thing. If you watch it back, it's pretty bad. And we know Dylan Brooks is kind of known for these types of antics and things like that. And it's unfortunate. So Keegan, he left. And this has happened a lot with the Kings. I don't know if it's just due to you got the juices flowing and there's a lot going on. But Keegan left, came back, and then now is being ruled as questionable. That is not good. That is not good. If you listen to the show, you know I've torn my Achilles, and I thought that Giannis, based on what we saw, I thought that Giannis was going to be out for a while. Turns out it's not the case. Actually, Giannis is probable. Okay, but the issue is his knee now. It's not even listing Achilles, so there's a good chance that Giannis is going to play tomorrow again. Keegan Murray is questionable. He's been pretty reliable. And I think that's the one thing that people haven't talked about enough this season. Everybody talked about the Kings last season and how they had that injury luck, right? Well, fortunately or unfortunately, they've basically had similar luck this season. It hasn't been as if they're dealing with all of these injuries like the Suns, the Mavericks, all over the place. And now, I think the Lakers have been pretty healthy as well. But if you look at the rest of the Western Conference, Thunder's been pretty healthy. Nuggets been pretty healthy. Timberwolves just had their situation with Karl Anthony Towns. Clippers have been oddly healthy. And then you get down to the Pelicans and you'll see, Zion missed some games and CJ McCollum has missed some games. Brandon Ingram's been out there a little bit more. So it's been pretty good injury luck for the Kings, which is not a good thing if you are, kind of looking for, hey, what are some of the things that we can sit here and say, hey, we can hang our hat on this or that. The Kings can't hang their hat on any issues as far as the injuries because they've been pretty healthy up to this point. De'Aaron's missed a couple games. I think it's under double digits, the amount of games that he's missed. So we'll see what happens with Keegan Murray. Now you have a back-to-back situation. You got the Bucks tomorrow. You have the Lakers right after that. So it's going to be difficult to just rock and roll here, doing a little bit of pocket watching as we see what happens with the other teams in the West. Look, man, the Suns, they have a gauntlet. I know Chris Watkins, my co-host, has talked about not really worrying about the Suns anymore. I'll stop worrying about them when they stopped winning. And today they won. They faced a Donovan Mitchell-less Cavs team. And the Cavs, they came out pretty hot, but it eventually wasn't enough because the Suns are finally fully loaded. For how long they'll be fully loaded, No clue. But the Suns had basically they were rock and rolling with everybody. Meanwhile, no Donovan Mitchell. Darius Garland tried to do his thing. He dropped 30, Karis LeVert 17, Jared Allen 15. And on the Suns side, this is just what they're going to do when they're rolling. Kevin Durant, 37 points. Devin Booker, 27 points. Grayson Allen, 14. Bradley Beal, 24. That is exactly what their recipe is. And a lot of people have gotten on the Suns for not playing a lot of defense, but the Kings really don't play that much defense either. So, I think that this thing is going to come down to the wire, and everybody knows that at this point. So it's not exactly what I think the Kings drew up. And we spent a lot of time today talking about the expectations and how expectations maybe should have changed or not changed just throughout this season. And last season, why it felt a little bit different than this year. And this year, it feels different because the Kings did have expectations. And I don't think it's the same as when the Giants won 107 games a couple years back. But in a sense, it was similar because nobody expected the Kings to show up out of nowhere and get the 3 seed. If we're being completely honest, even with that record, right, the Kings still have a chance to get to the same record they were at last season. It's not going to be easy. What they have 48 wins. They're at 36 right now and just refusing to get there and take advantage. But 48 wins, that is not a 3 seed. The Thunder already have 45, and everybody's got 20 plus games left. The Thunder already have 45. The Nuggets already have 44. The T-Wolves already have 44. The Clippers have 41. So I think it's time for us to throw that 3 seed out the window, just as it pertains to, hey, since you did this, now you can move past that. Because, on Saturday, Coach Mike Brown discussed just how people treat them and the expectations. And he talked about the fact that, in Denver, Michael Malone, they did not go to the playoffs their first 3 seasons with Michael Malone. And we all want to see this progression, but that's just not always how it goes, whether it be injury, whatever the case is. So I think that it's going to take a lot for Kings fans to get used to that. This is clearly going to be a step back, but hopefully you're moving forward. I think one thing that Chris and I have struggled with on the airwaves is just not looking ahead too much because the Kings could still make some noise. I mean, they didn't drop a game, but now with the Suns winning, they're going to be a game and a half, if I'm not mistaken, in front of the Kings. You're playing catch up, but you still have an opportunity to get to that 6 seed. And then after you look at the 6 seed, you have the Timberwolves, who are right now in the 3 seed. And I'll take the Timberwolves, and we'll see what happens with Karl Anthony Towns. But I'll take the Timberwolves in a matchup instead of the Nuggets. I'll take the Thunder. If the Thunder drop, if the Nuggets get to that 1 seed, anything can happen. But ultimately, the Kings have to take care of business. And that's just not what they did against a Houston Rockets team that they have not beaten all season long. Some of these numbers are going to sound like they're typos. And I promise you, they are not. Some of these numbers from the game yesterday, you have Sabonis, which 10 for 11, that doesn't sound like a typo, but if it is, it's a good typo. But he was 10 for 11 from the field. The problem was he had 9 turnovers. 9 turnovers can't happen. What else did not happen? Well, for a team that I like to say they run and chuck, right? They're just running chuckers. That's what the Kings do. The flow offense. Mike Brown had a lot of things to say about not getting those spray threes, getting too deep in the lane over and over again. Well, I don't know what the reason was. If you got too deep in the lane, whatever it is, 0.8, 18.8% from 3 and shooting 32 threes and expect to win a ball game. And I know it's possible. But that is just not what's going to happen very often. That's not what this team is built for. You don't have enough defenders to hang around and get that done. You just don't. You don't. So you shoot 18.8% 8%. All right. The one thing they could do is make their free throws. They've actually been shooting their free throws very well these last couple games. They were 87%, 20 for 23. So you get rid of one problem and another problem shows back up. That's a problem. That is a problem. And some of these numbers are just eye popping. Okay. And you were hoping to see some growth from some guys, and you are seeing it, but they're taking steps back in other directions. You have Keegan Murray, who was 0 for 5 from three. That can't happen. Okay. He was 3 for 11. And I'm sorry, this is a Houston Rockets team that doesn't have some stud that Keegan's having to chase around all day. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, that's no disrespect to Jalen Green. That's no disrespect to Fred Van Vliet. There's no disrespect to Shengun. I'm not trying to disrespect these guys, to Jabari Smith Jr. The bottom line is just that if you're going to miss that type of offense from Keegan on a day against the Rockets, then you're not necessarily moving in the direction of that two-way. He's going to get there, but again, I'm just talking specifically this season. Hopefully, this thing gets figured out. But this season, Keegan has clearly taken a step back offensively, and it's cost. This is the dude who was breaking records last season as far as his 3-point shooting. Okay, so you lose that. Clearly, clearly, you are going to wear it in other areas. Going to take a second here. Like I said, you were listening to Off Nights with Allen Stiles. Going to be doing this most of the nights where the Kings don't play. I'm just trying to double check here and make sure that if there are any comments coming through or anything like that, we have them all locked up. There we go. So we are good there as we continue the conversation about the Kings and just Keegan really taking a step back and that being an issue just in every facet, and looking here, going back through, you had Shengun, who you actually and look, very happy that what happened to his knee and ankle didn't end up being as serious as it looked, and him having to be put in a wheelchair, that was pretty brutal. So glad to hear that news today. Going back into the rest of the team, De'Aaron Fox, you're 2 for 9 from 3-point range, you're 7 for 21. You had 18 points. De'Aaron, oddly enough, didn't have a turnover. He kind of had issues there, but De'Aaron didn't have a turnover. I think Sabonis basically had enough for both of them. And then you have a Kevin Herter who is 0 for 3. And I'll be honest with you. I think at this point in time, I don't know who it is. I've heard multiple people talk about Malik Monk. We know that there's one thing that Coach Mike Brown is refusing to do, and that is move Kevin Herter, or excuse me, move Malik Monk to the starting lineup. So if you're not going to do that, fine, fair enough, fair enough. But that does not mean that Kevin Herter still needs to be started. I've been pretty hard on Kevin Herter. When I talked to Chris and we discussed last season, Kevin Herter last season had a career year. Okay. A lot of times when somebody has a career year, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be better than that, right? We don't know. If you actually look at Kevin Herter's numbers, he was in and out, right, in Atlanta, okay, and then he got hot, and then he comes over here to Sacramento, started out hot, but he had a career, right? So it's not really scalable that Kevin Herter. Nobody knew if he was going to do this again or if he was going to take a step back. And Kevin Herter has taken a step back so far. You look around the rest of this lineup, I know it basically is what it is with who you have. And Vazenko has been a miss. He can't stay on the floor. Even if he could stay on the floor, they haven't really been put into the rotation too much. Talking about Sasha, I look at the rest of this lineup, and if you're really stuck on not moving Malik Monk to the starting lineup, then I would take a look at Keon Ellis. And I know Keon Ellis is not perfect. I know he's not the playmaker. We have people calling all the time and they're talking about, well, we need a wing, we need this, we need that. People continuing to talk about what the Kings need next, right? but that's not helping anybody this season. They don't have that this season. They just don't. They don't. So, as far as what they do have, I'm looking at Keon Ellis. Number one, it would make your defense better, right? Which right now you can't stop these runs. And once they get rolling, all the goodwill that you have built up in the game and the amount of points that you've scored, and you have a 10-point lead, dare I say sometimes 15-point lead, and it's gone like that because you cannot stop anybody. Keon Ellis helps that. I know everybody's been very excited for the Keon and Davion combination. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not really sure how much longer that is going to be able to exist because let's be honest, I like the way Keon shoots. Okay. Davion has been hot lately. No clue if that is going to continue. I just don't know. So if we don't know if that's going to continue, I guess you could write it to the wheels fall off. But I would say that I go bonus, De'Aaron Fox, Keegan Murray, okay, you put in Keon and you rock with Harrison Barnes. And I know somebody's getting ready to talk about Harrison Barnes, and I get it, but that's another guy that, not to use that word of stubborn with Mike Brown, but there are some things that he is willing to move on. That seems to be one of those things. Here from Airborne Musician, do you think offering to start in the league might help convince him to stay in Sacramento? That is something that I have definitely thought about because very similar to not to take it to the Niners, but very similar to Brandon Ayuk, we know that it's not just Brandon Ayuk as far as a payday. Okay, it's also about I want the rock. Okay, so Malik Monk, I don't know that the Kings are not going to be able to offer him as much as some of the other teams. So I don't think they have a choice. You're not going to convince Malik Monk as much as he wants De'Aaron Fox. To be completely honest with you, I've been told sources have told me that obviously De'Aaron and Malik are close, but as far as the Kentucky connection, which the Kentucky connection, everybody goes to Kentucky. There is probably at least one Kentucky basketball player on every NBA team. So the Kentucky connection, I don't think it's overblown at all, but I don't think from what I've heard that Malik and De'Aaron are just best, right? From what I've heard, De'Aaron is actually really close with Bam Adebayo. Okay, that Kentucky connection. So I say all that to say that I don't know that Malik Monk is going to, as much as he loves Sacramento, and we see him in the different outfits and the jackets and the collabs. He loves Sacramento. He doesn't like when we boo, but he does like Sacramento. It is hard for me to believe that Malik Monk is going to take less money and he's not going to start for a team, if we're being honest, that's fighting to stay out of the play. If you're going to sit on the bench still, okay, maybe you get Joel Embiid back and you go to Philly. Why wouldn't he go to Philly? Why wouldn't he go somewhere? Or if I am going to take a step back, I know a team in Texas that needs a point guard, Wembanyama, right? And can you imagine Malik Monk with his ability to be in that pick and roll? He's one of the most prolific pick and roll players in the game, and he's doing that with. He was also doing that with JaVale McGee. So I think that I do not think that Malik Monk is going to stay here. Especially, it would be different if they were a 4 seed. It would be different if they were a situation to where, okay, we're right there. We're right there. But you cannot be a team fighting to stay out of the play-in, which might be in the play-in, all right? You cannot have that happen and then go to Malik and say, you're still not good enough to start on this team. If I'm Malik, I would say, okay, well, at the very least, I'm getting one of the two. I'm either going to start or I'm getting both. I'm either going to start, I'm either going to get the bag, or I'm going to get both. And the Kings are not really in a position to give them the bag that other teams may be able to. So I think you have to start, which leads me to the same reason why in the world, if you do think that's going to be a thing, why would you just not start him now? Now, maybe it's too late, but I think that this could be a situation where you start to build that goodwill with Malik Monk, or Mike Brown just feels like it's not going to make a difference. gonna make a difference. And whatever that lineup is next season is not this lineup. But for now, I would rock with Keon Ellis. I don't know what happens with Chris Duarte, why things have been so erratic with his time. And you start one game or you start 3 games, then you don't play anymore. And then the last couple games he was getting subbed in doesn't happen anymore. I don't know what is going on there. I know if I was Chris Duarte, I'd be very annoyed. I'd be very upset because I'm I'm sitting there watching Kevin Herter brick up the joint, right, to build a house. And the problem is defense. Now, I think Keon is better than Duarte's been better with the fouls. I would take either of them. And Duarte, he shoots a little bit too quickly for me at times, but I like what he's giving. The bottom line is this, and I'm not trying to sleep on Kevin Herter's ability to rebound and at times playmaking. I know he tries to start this on defense, but they're just other guys that can give you more if he's not hitting shots. The only reason I'm coming down Kevin Herter's road more than I would come down and more than I'm coming down Harrison Barnes' road is because I've been in that room. I've been in the pregame pressers. I've been in the postgame pressers. Harrison Barnes is not leaving that lineup. So I'm not. We people don't even ask anymore. There used to be a time where, hey, Harrison has been doing this, Harrison has been doing that. We just don't ask anymore. We just don't ask anymore, and it is crazy. It is crazy. I talked about the Niners. Now talk about the Giants. Everybody upset with Kapler and Farhan platooning. That's essentially what they do with Harrison Barnes, an opener. Okay, how are you a starter and you played 21 minutes? You took 1 3, you took 6 shots, you had 1 rebound, you were a minus 17, you had 5 points. I don't understand it, but like I said, I think that both of them, Harrison Barnes and Kevin Herter, I don't know where they're at next season, but this is to the point when people want to complain about the coaching staff, right? And Mike Brown is doing enough. I think at this point in time, he is saying, I am telling them to do the same thing over, over, over again. They are not doing it. We have heard about these spray threes forever. We have heard about this defense forever. They are not doing their job. Okay. So to me, as much as it's about Mike Brown, this summer, it's about Monty McNair. That's who it's about. We can sit here and talk about Mike Brown. And honestly, all right, let's look at the amount of games that have been won or lost by the Kings. Let's just be honest. Kings are 36 and 27. Honestly, and maybe this is a big deal when you're in a playoff race, but it's hard for me to truthfully say that without a shadow of a doubt, if Mike Brown hadn't done or had done certain things differently, they would have won X amount of games. I don't know that I can go past 2 more games. I'll give you 30. You're 38 in 25 instead, and now at that point you would be based on that you would be in the 60s because you have two. You're down 2.5 games to the Pelicans, who are in the 5 seed. So I think it's hard for me. The game is just played between the lines, and I don't know if I've seen enough egregious decisions from Mike Brown to go over 2 more wins. And maybe that's a big deal to people. Maybe that's a big deal. To me, it's a big deal that you don't have people that can defend. And I think one thing that makes this whole situation tough is that you're coming off not making the playoffs in years. So I do believe that this team earned the right to run it back. It's just we just know what it is now. And we knew pretty soon, or pretty soon into the season, we knew what it was. We knew what it was. And when you're stuck there, and maybe that's why people said, well, what about the trades? You blame that on the Timberwolves. The numbers were just insane, and the market was out of control. So I think that everybody was stuck and not able to really get what they want. Everybody was worth the first rounder. Everybody was worth the first rounder this whole trade season. So I think everybody felt stuck. You didn't see a ton of movement. I know that the Suns made some moves that maybe you're looking at. Okay, that was somebody that the Kings were interested in with Royce O'Neal, but looking at it now, maybe they're better with Royce O'Neal. I still think they're sitting there paddling with the Suns stuff. That's just what it is, and you just can't have you just have a flawed team. You just cannot have two guys in the starting lineup that you just have no clue what they're going to give you night in, night out. And then you have to pull the escape valve and get them out of there. And then you have the sixth man that's probably the third most, not probably, he is the third most important player on the in Malik Monk. So I don't know in what world that works out. And as far as championship or anything of that nature. But, one thing to keep in mind is that this isn't really a negative for the Kings. This is just part of growth. And you have De'Aaron Fox, who is still young. All right. I know that there have been some question marks about him, but you can look at De'Aaron Fox, 26 years old now. He is starting to find that 3-point shot when he is engaged. The operative word there is when. When he is engaged, he can be a heck of a defender. He can be a two-way player, and he can score basketball at every level now. So that is a positive you can take out of this season. Keegan Murray, defensively, you can talk about how much better he's become. I don't know. I'm not saying that back offensively, but he's played like he has. I think that if Keegan Murray was sent out there like a DH in basketball, hey, just get out there and shoot threes. You don't have to worry about guarding the best guy. I don't think Keegan Murray look like this. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Caterpillar season with Keegan Murray, and you're hoping to get that butterfly next season. You got Domantas Sabonis. That's the one that hurts the most, I think. That's the one that hurts the most. That you have a season like Domantas Sabonis, and for as great as it is, I don't know how it will be remembered if they lose in the play-in or something like that. I just hope he plays well to get rid of that narrative that he can't show up in the playoffs. That's what I hope. But as far as the triple doubles and Domas' ridiculous streak that he's had with his double doubles, we've seen the same thing with Luca. And I think triple doubles are really cool to talk about. But as far as how they affect winning a basketball game, I don't know if it all fits together. That tells me that somebody is doing way too much. You can have a triple double, but somebody else, maybe two other people are still gonna have to do their job to get a W, especially in this Western Conference. So when people say, "Man, we wasted another triple double by Montes by Domas," I don't really know if it's a waste or not. He is stuck in a situation right now where he's being forced to do all this stuff. And that's part of the reason he's ending up with 9 turnovers. That's not good either. Not 9 turnovers is going to take a step back from everything else that he's done. So I think the triple doubles are great. I think that they show his greatness. I don't think it connects to the fact that the Kings should be winning those games. I don't because somebody has a triple double, you can win those games. Ask Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic, same idea. He's got a bunch of triple doubles. They can't win these games either. Okay, and hopefully it continues that way. So they stay away from the Kings. And I'll tell you what, coming up, that is going to be. They got a showdown. I believe is it next. They play the Mavericks twice in a matter of about 2 games, something like that. Weird back to back, and that is literally going to move the needle in either a good or bad direction. So the Kings, they yeah, that is at the end of March. They host the Mavericks March 26th, and they host the Mavericks March 29th. Okay, so that is a head-to-head situation that they're going to have to deal with as we talk about the Bucks now tomorrow. The Bucks, they've dealt with some injuries, and we discussed the knee problem. So we don't forget what happened in Milwaukee. We know that the Kings can ball with the Bucks. They had an opportunity. That's when they couldn't make their free throws. theory, if they make their free throws this go round and take care of business the way they almost did in Milwaukee, you should be okay. The problem is now they have not been playing great at home. I mean, they barely beat the Spurs on Thursday, all right? And I don't know what it is. I know that Malik Monk has been back and forth with this whole booing thing, but I don't know what is going on in Golden One Center. I am never going to sit here and blame fans or whatever it is. But yeah, Malik Monk has talked about the booing. We talked a lot about the booing on the show today. And I'm not going to police anybody. That doesn't mean that Malik Monk has to like it. But when you are messing around, almost losing to the Spurs with no Wembanyama and losing to the Rockets, you can't beat the Rockets. First couple times you lost to the Rockets, you have De'Aaron Fox, no excuse this time, and you can't get it done. And now things are just going to be difficult for you. You have a back to back. I mean, this is a gauntlet. You have a back to back, and I know that the Kings own the Lakers. Unless the Kings own the Lakers the way the Rockets or the Pelicans own the Kings, you got to think they're going to get one of these. I hope they don't, but you have to think they do. You have the Bucks at Kings tomorrow. Then you have Lakers at Kings on Wednesday. Then you get a break, and guess who just got announced is returning? OG Anunoby. So that's the guy that the Knicks have not had this whole time. And if I'm not mistaken, OG is playing tomorrow, or he got cleared for something. So there's a good chance that you're going to see the Knicks with OG Anunoby on Saturday. You get a little break if you want to take advantage of it with the Grizzlies, the Kings stuff, and the Raptors. And the Raptors just haven't been able to beat anybody, especially in the Western Conference. But the Raptors, you go to Raptors, you go to Wizards. So you're going to have an opportunity, but you're not making life any easier for yourself. And look, we're just getting started now, so I won't get into April too much. Let me just say some of the names that are on the schedule for April. Some of the teams, just so you know what we're working with here: at Knicks, at Celtics, at Thunder. They host the Pelicans and they host the Suns. That's some of the names that you're going to have to deal with coming up. That's just March was supposed to be the soft month for the Kings. March was supposed to be the month where they made some headway, where they, okay, we're going now. We're going now. That was supposed to be March. And they've already messed around here. So now you have to find a way to make up for it. That's a problem. That's a problem. All right. If you're just now joining us, thank you for joining us. This is Off Nights with Allen Stiles from Stiles and Watkins on Sactown Sports. Thank you for joining us the same way you can join us as well on Stiles and Watkins, where you can listen to this on the radio, tune in app, multiple places on Twitter, Facebook. If you're on Facebook, thank you for checking us out there as well. So continuing to have this conversation, and honestly, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think that ultimately when you look at who the Kings are, it's not that they're not ahead of schedule, right? But it's starting to catch up with them simply because of who is around them. All right. The Grizzlies are not going to disappear forever. They're going to get John Morant back. They're at least going to be annoying at the very least, and they might get a top pick. So you have the Grizzlies. The Lakers are going to try to do something. All right. The teams that are probably not are probably stuck, and they're going to try to make some type of moves just like in the trade deadline. Clippers, I wouldn't say stuck. They might be in contention this season, but the Suns seem a bit stuck. So teams like that, you would like to believe that the Warriors are going to attempt to do something. You would like to believe that the Lakers are going to attempt to do something. I don't know what. I have no clue what. And then, oh, by the way, these teams that you are supposed to not really have to worry about anymore, you have or not this season at least, nobody is things aren't getting worse. I don't think the Jazz will do too much, but you got a second year with Yama. You have whatever the Blazers are trying to do. They still got Jeremy Grant here with Scoot Henderson. So those three teams at the bottom are not going to get worse, right? So even on your nights off, you're not going to have a night off. And I don't know, the Rockets might be a little bit stuck. They went all in with that team, but as it stands right now, the Rockets, they don't have a problem when it comes to they don't have a problem when it comes to trying to try to take care of the Kings. So that's just kind of what it is right now. Let's see, we got something else on the chat as well. Let me pull this up. Airborne Musician again. It's looking like Sac will more than likely be a play-in team, and we'll have to pray they don't get eliminated. Yeah, they can get in, right? I mean, they still can get in. They're now down to a game and a half back, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe now it's a full game. Might just be a full game. They still have time. The problem is the teams that they're and actually, see if I can find it. Malik Monk had a quote today, just as far as not beating good teams, and also De'Aaron Fox said this in the post game. Well, the good thing is that there's only good teams in the playoffs, and I mean, I guess if that's what we want to go with, I don't know. I don't know. I don't love that, but you're not wrong. The problem is you have to beat the not so good teams for your season to continue. That's the issue here. That's the issue. So it's not about whether I whether I think that's right or not. The problem is you're not always going to beat those good teams, and that's gonna be acceptable. When you lose to teams where you're not supposed to lose to these teams, that is not acceptable, and that is how things can snowball into a situation that you don't want to be in. But essentially, Malik Monk was discussing, he was asked after practice just about their ability to beat teams, and he's always saying something is ticking him off, and it was no different today. He was talking about, yeah, we can beat the good team, but we just don't show up. And honestly, Malik Monk is probably my best or my favorite soundbite. He always is. I wouldn't say the most open, but you're just gonna get the truth from Malik, or the truth as far as how he sees it. This is from Sean Cunningham of Fox 40. Malik Monk looks back at last night's loss to the Rockets, how ticked he got in the fourth quarter to see another team with a losing record outwork them. And see Kings teammates share that frustration despite not showing it. And that's something that's come up on the chat as well. People like when you see emotions, right? And the Kings, it's very rare that they show emotions like that. And a lot of people will then say, "Oh my goodness, do they not care the same way?" And it's not that they don't care. Everybody is different. Now, you do have a Malik Monk who he wears his heart on his sleeve. Honestly, I really feel like Sabonis does too. I think Sabonis shows a lot of grit and a lot of emotion on the court. I'll never forget, I think it was in Detroit. They were tricking off another situation. They were down 20 or something like that. Sabonis had a dunk, and he just let out a ridiculous scream. And I know De'Aaron Fox, he did that. Was that in LA? He did that not too long ago. So they can get into it at different times, but you're just not used to seeing it. And people say, "Well, do they care? Well, do they this or do they that?" Of course they care, but I know that people do like to see it straight up, and maybe you're not seeing it as much as you would like with these with some of the other players, especially when you have so many other teams out there where everybody's playing showing emotion and things like that. But I think it's really whatever is clever, and I don't really have a problem with you showing emotion or not showing emotion. I have a problem with losing to teams that you should not be losing. That's what I have a problem with. So they have another opportunity to this week, and as we do some more. So if you're now joining us, the Suns gain at least a half game on the Kings, and after this, everybody is dealing with the Bucks Western Conference, right? So how are you going to handle that Western Conference trip? And Kings are up next for that tomorrow. So it doesn't get any easier for the Suns, as we mentioned. They go to Celtics, all right? They go to Hornets, then they go to the Bucks, and they host the Sixers, and then they host the Hawks. So then they have a back-to-back, excuse me, not a back-to-back, 2 games that are one after the other against the Spurs. Okay, and that is essentially where the last easy games happen for the Suns. So they're mixed up. They get a Hornets game, but then they have a Bucks, they got the Sixers, they have a Hawks, and they have 2 against Spurs. After that, they gotta go to Nuggets, they gotta go to Thunder, they gotta go to Pelicans, they host the Cavs, they host the Timberwolves, they host the Pelicans, they host the Clippers, they go to Clippers, they then go to Suns, excuse me, go to Kings, and last but not least, they end in Minnesota. So that is why Chris Watkins feels like it's just a matter of time with the it's just a matter of time with the Suns, but honestly, I think the Kings have bigger fish to fry as far as taking care of their own house. That's what I think the issue is right now. It doesn't matter what the Suns do because what Chris is really saying is that it's not about the Suns at this point, it's about the Mavericks. That's what he's talking about. He thinks the Suns will drop and it will be the Kings and the Mavericks fighting for that 6th seed. I saw a Lakers person post this because, of course, they're going to, you know, want feel like the Lakers are in a good position. Somebody said if the Lakers win, if the Kings lose back-to-back games as they would have lost to the Bucks and then lost to the Lakers straight up, the Lakers could jump in the standings. That's where we're at this moment in time. And the Lakers get to host Warriors who the Warriors cannot shoot in LA. They've never been able to shoot in LA. So I'm personally not worried about the Lakers. I think the Lakers are just trying to get in the play and sneak up on some people. But this thing is really anybody's game. And also, by the way, the Warriors, they were winning even without Steph. They were they were playing the let's see here. Yeah, so the Warriors did end up beating the Spurs today with no Steph Curry as he is taking care of that ankle. So the Warriors now trying to make a move. They then have to go to Dallas. They then have to go to LA. They host the Knicks again. That may be a Knicks team with OG Anunoby. So everybody's going to have opportunities. Everybody's going to have opportunities. It's just a matter of what you do with them. And the Kings really after that situation where the Celtics beat the Suns, they could have taken advantage of that, and then they lose to the Rockets. They just lose to the Rockets. You know, there are 2 teams now that the Kings have not beat all season long. They have not beat the Pelicans. They have not beat the Rockets. You really only have to worry about one of those teams in the playoffs if you got there, right? Pelicans or the 5 seed or something like that. But it's just it's just tough. From airborne musician admitting that you play up to your competition isn't an excuse for playing poorly against teams you should absolutely beat. Yeah, and Malik is speaking for the group. Everybody else is just going to give you coach speak or athlete speak, just the same old thing. I don't think that Malik is excusing it. I think he just doesn't really know what else to say. I think they're all stunned. I think they're all shell shocked. Some people were talking about the fact that it was a 3 p.m. game and oh, that was a little different. They were at home. They were at home. That's a good excuse for the Rockets. That's a good excuse for the Rockets, not the Kings who are at home. So, and it's been they start out hot and then they, fall off a cliff. And in this situation, you shoot 18%, 18.8%. I'm not going to forget that point eight. That's just going to be tough sledding for anybody in this current NBA. But Chris looked up some stats that said the Denver Nuggets have one shooting this with this bad of a percentage. These teams are just built different. We saw today that the Kings have lost their 7 worst shooting performances. The one that they was when they beat the Nuggets before the All-Star break. Every other game where they have shot poorly, they have not won. They have not won. So they essentially can only win one way. Not that's not it. But that is who they are this season. And it is who they are until it's not. They can still get hot. I mean, look, I think what is interesting about the Kevin Herter is for me, I understand that he could get hot at any time. Or I understand that that is the theory. Hey, you're right. You take him out, and then after that happens, then what, right? But how long of a leash are you gonna give someone, right? And I say the same thing if you're just joining us. The only reason I haven't talked about Harrison Barnes much is because it is clear that Coach Mike Brown is not going to see Harrison Barnes. He thinks that he brings something to the table that they have not had in the past, and he does not want to move off of Harrison Barnes in that starting spot. So us in the media, we just stopped asking. That's pretty much it. And Harrison Barnes can sit there and have a like we just said, minus 17, 5 points, essentially get pulled, only play 21 minutes, and we just don't say anything anymore. Because what's the point? He's just gonna tell us, "Oh, well, Harrison, he does this for us, and that for us." And somebody asked, I think it was probably a couple months ago, somebody did ask, "We thought about seeing him," he just said, "No." So that's just what it is. I know JaVale McGee was another guy who very surprised that people were surprised that he was playing so much, and then it turned into people being surprised that he stopped playing at all. And that was another guy where people didn't understand, hey, why no Alex Len here or whatever it is. And eventually he got there, but Harrison Barnes a little bit more cachet. Both champions, but actually JaVale multiple time champion. But I just think that Harrison has a little bit more cachet. And the other thing is there's really no replacement for what Harrison does. They do not have a they're trying to Keegan Murray into. The closest thing they got is Harrison Barnes. So you can't what Herter is not giving you, or you'd hope that he would give you, you can kind of replicate that somewhere else. But the only person that you would talk about is Trey Lyles. And right now, Trey Lyles cannot shoot. Let's see what he did against the Rockets. But Trey Lyles, he didn't even take it against the Rockets. I think he's seeing Casper out there. He had 5 points, played 20 minutes. So between that position, you got 10 points. You got 10 points, 41 minutes between the both of them, and Trey had 2 rebounds, and Harrison had 1. That's your forward spot. That's your wing spot. That's one of the most important positions in the NBA right now. That's what you're getting. So, you're probably not gonna win a lot of games. You're probably not gonna win a lot of games when your forward position, okay, your power forward position is putting up 10 points and 2 rebounds, 3 rebounds, and can't really guard. So, a lot of people are curious what's gonna happen next. I'm excited to see what happens next in this season. I think people should keep it in perspective. We had a really good caller today call in and just say, "Hey, I'm still to the point where" I think he said he was 24, 25 years old, maybe younger than that. He said, "This is basically the first time I've seen the Kings be competitive and successful." So I would definitely keep that in mind. Doesn't mean that it's any less frustrating when they're not doing well, but I would keep that in mind as well. I am going to get on out of here. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Off Nights with Allen Stiles as we hopefully get back on the right track and can get into these playoffs and go from there. But thank you so much for listening and hopping in. Thank you to everybody that hopped in the chat wherever you were listening, whether it was on Twitter, Sactown, Sports on YouTube or Facebook as well. Thank you for checking me out, and we will talk to you soon. Talk, check me out on Styles and Watkins tomorrow, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. every day, every weekday, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. We will continue to get you ready for Kings Bucks and beyond. Talk to you soon.